Under the dazzling stage lights of America's Got Talent, the audience was buzzing with excitement, waiting for the next act to appear. From behind the curtain, a young man nervously adjusted the microphone in his hand. His name was Rafael Cruz, a 23-year-old from Manila, Philippines, who had traveled thousands of miles for this one chance to chase his dream. He wasn't wearing anything fancy, just a plain white shirt, jeans, and a hopeful smile, but the sincerity in his eyes said everything. He wasn't here to impress with style, he was here to touch hearts. As he stepped onto the massive AGT stage, the lights dimmed slightly, and the judges leaned forward. The crowd quieted down. Rafael took a deep breath, looked up at the giant AGT logo glowing behind him, and whispered something softly in Tagalog under his breath, a small prayer his mother taught him before he left home. Then, with trembling hands, he faced the judges. Simon Cowell adjusted his microphone and said with his usual calm but curious tone, "Hello there. What's your name, and where are you from?" Rafael smiled nervously and replied in a clear but slightly shaky voice, "My name is Rafael Cruz, and I'm from Manila, Philippines." The audience clapped warmly at the mention of the Philippines, and Rafael gave a small, grateful bow. Heidi Klum leaned forward with a smile. "Welcome, Rafael. What are you going to sing for us tonight?" He looked at her, his eyes shining, and said, "I'm going to sing Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley." "It's for my mama." Simon raised an eyebrow slightly, intrigued but cautious. He had heard countless Elvis covers over the years, but something about this young man's quiet confidence drew his attention. The music began, soft piano chords filling the theater. For a brief second, Rafael froze. Then, as if a wave of calm washed over him, he opened his mouth and began to sing. The first note stopped everyone in their tracks. His voice was rich, deep, and full of warmth. It wasn't an imitation. It was a heartfelt interpretation, smooth and powerful yet humble. The Filipino accent gave the song a unique sweetness, and every syllable carried emotion. Simon slowly leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed, a slight smile beginning to form. The camera zoomed in on Rafael's face, eyes closed, completely lost in the music. You could feel that this song meant something personal to him. As the lyrics, "Take my hand, take my whole life too," filled the air, the audience grew silent. Some smiled softly, while others simply watched in awe. A mother in the crowd held her child close, whispering, "He sounds like Elvis." The judges exchanged glances, Sofia Vergara with wide eyes, Heidi nodding, and Simon tapping the desk rhythmically, clearly impressed but trying not to show it too early. In that moment, it wasn't just a performance. It was a story being told, a story of a Filipino dreamer standing alone in front of the world, proving that passion knows no borders. The way he sang, it was as if every memory of his family, every struggle he had faced in Manila's small music bars, and every wish he had whispered into the night all came pouring out through the song. His voice cracked slightly at one point, but instead of weakness, it added raw emotion, making the crowd feel every word even more deeply. When the final chorus arrived, Rafael raised his voice just enough to fill the entire auditorium. The power, the sincerity, it was breathtaking. The final note lingered in the air for a long second before the music faded. There was silence, then suddenly a roar of applause. The crowd stood to their feet, clapping, cheering, shouting his name. Rafael opened his eyes, shocked by the standing ovation. He looked at the judges, his chest rising and falling fast. Heidi was already clapping enthusiastically, Sophia's jaw had dropped, and Howie Mandel gave him a thumbs up. But what made Rafael's heart skip was Simon Cowell's expression. The usually hard-to-please judge was smiling, a real, genuine smile. Simon leaned forward, tapped the desk, and said, "Rafael, I wasn't expecting that. I've heard many people try to sing Elvis, but you didn't just sing him, you felt him. That was something really, really special." Tears filled Rafael's eyes. He placed a hand over his heart and whispered, "Thank you, Sir Simon." The audience continued to cheer as Simon nodded and said, "You've got a gift. And I think your mama back in Manila is going to be very, very proud tonight." Rafael smiled, eyes glistening under the lights. Somewhere backstage, his mother, watching on a small screen, covered her mouth in disbelief. She had always told him that music could open doors, and tonight, in front of the world, her son had just opened his. As the echoes of Raphael's final note faded into the vast America's Got Talent stage, there was a second of pure silence, an almost magical pause that felt like time had stopped. Then suddenly, the entire theater erupted into thunderous applause. People were on their feet, cheering, clapping, shouting his name. Some were wiping away tears, others were smiling through the emotion that still hung in the air. The camera zoomed in on Raphael, who stood frozen, hands still clutching the microphone, his chest rising and falling rapidly as he tried to believe what had just happened. Simon Cowell, known around the world for his brutally honest and often cold reactions, was smiling. A real, unmistakable smile of surprise and admiration spread across his face. He leaned back in his chair, looked at the audience, then turned toward Raphael. "Wow," he said softly, almost to himself. "That was unexpected." His voice carried across the room, calm but powerful, and the crowd instantly quieted, waiting for his words. Heidi Klum turned to Simon with wide eyes. "Simon, I think he just gave us one of the best Elvis renditions we've ever heard here," she said excitedly. Sofia Vergara nodded, still amazed. "It's like Elvis was reborn in the Philippines," she added, smiling warmly at Raphael. Raphael blinked hard, holding back tears. He looked out into the crowd and saw a sea of smiling faces, people waving Philippine flags they had brought to support their Kababayans performing on AGT. The pride in the room was overwhelming. Simon looked at Raphael again, his usual serious expression returning for a brief moment. "Raphael," he said, "when you first walked out, I honestly didn't know what to expect. You looked nervous, and I thought, here we go again, another Elvis song." He paused, smirking slightly as the audience laughed. "But then, you opened your mouth, and the first note completely changed my mind." The lights shifted, creating a warm glow over the stage as Simon continued. "You didn't just copy Elvis. You made us feel him. You sang with heart, not imitation. That was something real." The crowd roared again, clapping and shouting his name, "Raphael! Raphael!" Heidi leaned forward and said, "Your tone, your control, your emotion, it's like you took us back in time but made it new again." "That's very rare," Howie Mandel added. "There's something about the way you connect with the song. It's not just talent, it's soul. And that's what this show is all about." Simon's expression softened even more as he leaned toward his red buzzer. "You know what?" he said slowly, teasing the audience, "I think this deserves something extra special." The entire theater began to cheer louder, realizing what was about to happen. Raphael covered his mouth, shaking his head in disbelief. Then it happened. Simon pressed the golden buzzer. The iconic gold confetti exploded from above, filling the air like a shining storm of dreams. Raphael dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by emotion, tears streaming down his face as he looked up at the falling gold. The audience screamed, the judges stood, and Simon, smiling from ear to ear, stood up and clapped for him. "You've just earned your ticket straight to the live shows," he said proudly. As the music swelled and the golden rain continued to fall, Raphael looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Mama." He could almost imagine her back in Cebu City, watching the performance on TV, crying with pride as her son's dream came true before millions. When the confetti settled, Simon walked up to the stage, something he rarely did. He extended his hand to Raphael and said, "You reminded all of us why we love music. It crosses borders, it connects souls, and tonight, it connected the Philippines with the world." The crowd cheered louder than ever before. Raphael took a deep breath, smiled through his tears, and raised his hand toward the audience in gratitude. That night, he wasn't just a singer anymore. He had become a global symbol of hope, a Filipino dreamer who made even Simon Cowell believe in magic again. Backstage, the noise from the audience still echoed faintly as Raphael Cruz stepped off the AGT stage, his shoes crunching against the golden confetti scattered across the floor. His heart was still racing, his mind spinning between disbelief and pure joy. The words, "You reminded us why we love music," from Simon Cowell replayed in his head over and over again. He could hardly process it. Simon Cowell had given him the golden buzzer. He had come all the way from Manila, dreaming of this exact moment, and now it was real. Tears filled his eyes again as he tried to hold back his emotions, but this time they were tears of triumph. Just a few steps away, a familiar voice shouted, "Anik! Anik!" It was his mother, Maria Cruz, who had flown in from Cebu City to surprise him. The moment she reached him, she threw her arms around him tightly. "I told you, Anik, the world will hear your voice," she said, her own tears streaming down. Rafael hugged her back, his shoulders trembling as the two of them stood surrounded by confetti and camera flashes. It was a scene of love, pride, and the fulfillment of a promise between a mother and her son. A producer nearby smiled and said softly, "You made history tonight, Rafael. The Philippines is proud of you." As Rafael wiped his tears, a camera crew approached for an interview. "How does it feel to get the golden buzzer from Simon Cowell himself?" the reporter asked. Rafael took a deep breath, looked at the camera, and smiled through the tears. "It feels unreal," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I just wanted to sing from my heart, to honor my mom and everyone back home in the Philippines who believed in me. This golden buzzer isn't just for me, it's for every Filipino dreamer who sings in small bars, on the streets, or at home, hoping to be heard one day." Back in the audience area, fans were waving small Philippine flags and chanting his name. The AGT social media team was already posting clips of his performance. Within minutes, hashtags like hashtag Filipino Elvis, hashtag Rafael Golden Buzzer, and hashtag Proudly Pinoy started trending across platforms. The comments poured in. People from Manila, Cebu, Davao, and even overseas Filipinos in the US filled the internet with love and pride. "He just showed the world what Filipino talent means," one comment read. Another wrote, "When he sang, it felt like Elvis met the soul of the Philippines." As the production team wrapped up, Simon Cowell appeared backstage with his usual confident stride. The crowd of staff parted as he approached Rafael and his mother. Simon extended his hand, smiling warmly. "Rafael," he said, "I just wanted to tell you again, what you did tonight was more than a performance. It was a moment. You have something truly special." Rafael shook his hand firmly, his voice trembling as he replied, "Thank you, Sir Simon. You changed my life." Simon chuckled softly and said, "No, Rafael, you did that." Later that night, Rafael returned to his hotel room, still in disbelief. His phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from relatives, friends, and even strangers flooded in. Videos of his performance had already gone viral on YouTube, gathering millions of views within hours. News outlets from the Philippines were running headlines like, "Filipino singer brings Simon Cowell to tears," and "Golden buzzer for the boy from Manila." Rafael sat by the window, looking out at the city lights of Los Angeles, his mother asleep on the bed behind him. He smiled softly, whispering a small prayer of thanks. In that quiet moment, he thought about the journey, from singing in small karaoke bars in Quezon City to standing on one of the biggest stages in the world. For him, it was never just about fame. It was about hope, the kind of hope that starts in a small neighborhood in Manila and somehow finds its way to millions of hearts around the globe. And as he looked at his reflection in the window, he realized something deeply beautiful. Sometimes, dreams don't just come true, they shine brighter than the golden confetti that once fell around you.